welcome to the Sabermetrics Network. My name is Brandon, and I'll be taking you through this All-Star Wednesday. And with the All-Star game fully in our rearview mirror, let's take a look at what I consider to be the Sabermetrics All-Star team. And so basically what I use for clarification and classification is FanGraphs WAR for position players. And for relievers, I used net win probability added, or WPA if you're a little bit of a stats guru like I am. Basically, I don't like WAR for relievers. I don't think it really adequately sums up what relievers contribute in certain different times. So, while a good reliever is going to accumulate a lot of WAR, the best relievers may not necessarily, because they can't really dictate their usage patterns either. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the American League squad. I have Joe Mauer catching, Edwin Encarnacion playing first base, which I found a little bit strange, but he does currently lead AL first sackers in WAR. I got Robbie Cano at second, kind of blows away the competition at the Keystone there. Miguel Cabrera at third, Elvis Andrus at short, and then the outfield from left to right, I got Josh Hamilton, Mike Trout, and Josh Reddick of the upstart Oakland A's. A very good ball club down there on the Bay Area. The DH is Alex Gordon, and that might be a little bit unpopular because a lot of his WAR value comes from fielding. And what I basically did was find the best hitter who didn't make the team otherwise as a starter. So I became kind of slavish to my own rules there, and so Gordon gets in as a DH, even though most of his value is from being a superb left fielder. So I would probably, if I did it over again, I may move Encarnacion there and start somebody else at first base. But nevertheless, this is my team. Make your own. So my bench is A.J. Pierzynski behind the plate, and then on my bench on each side I did a corner infielder, a middle infielder, and a pair of outfielders, with the rule that I had to think my corner infielder could cover third and first, my middle infielder could play short at least in a pinch, and that I had at least one center fielder capable on my bench as far as filling in center. So you can't have two slow corner guys in your outfield. So my corner infielder on the American League side is Michael Moustakas, having a terrific, basically first full season over there in Kansas City, and you got to love the idea of him playing in front of his home fans. I got Ben Zobrist up the middle. Zobrist having a great season. I think he could probably play shortstop in a pinch. Obviously more suited to play outfield, second base, but that's another good bit of versatility to have on your squad if you're going to build a team that's, going to need a pinch runner or pinch hitter late in the game. My outfield's got a couple of center fielders, actually. Austin Jackson from Detroit, having a terrific season over there in the Motor City. And Baltimore's Adam Jones. So recently extended, going to be spending a lot of time in Baltimore. And obviously very deserving of an all-star berth. So let's take a look at the pitching staff. Starting pitcher and leading off to start the game would be Justin Verlander. And I went with a 5-man starting staff because you're building a 25-man roster here if I hadn't been clear. So I got a 5-man starting staff, a 6-man bullpen, 5 deep on the bench. I could really go either way with my 25th man, to be honest with you. I could do another reliever, or I could do another bench bat. I went with bench bats just because the bats are a little bit more WAR-friendly when I'm using this as a Sabermetrics All-Star team. Anyway, back to my starting rotation. I got Justin Verlander, Chris Sale, Felix Hernandez, Jake Peavy, and CC Sabathia rounding it out. No pun intended there on the rounding it out. And the bullpen is it's a pretty interesting little group of guys here. We got Jim Johnson, Fernando Rodney, Vinny Pestano, Ernesto Frieri, who's been absolutely ridiculous since coming over from the San Diego Padres, Rafael Soriano, who's been closing in the stead of Mariano Rivera, who actually, we just found out recently, may be able to come back at the end of the season. And rounding it out, we have Addison Reed, the young fireballer from the Chicago White Sox. So I also want to give one little nod to Jason Kipnis, too. He may have been my middle infielder if I thought he could handle short as far as on the bench. Kipnis having a terrific year for the Cleveland Indians, obviously fulfilling his top prospect billing. So we get a feel for how this team differs from the American League team that's played here in the All-Star Week. And it's awfully similar, to be honest with you, in a lot of ways when you consider that you can't be obviously exactly the same. So I think that's a pretty good ball club, but let's look at the NL club, which I think might even be better. You got Chooch Ruiz catching, so Philly fans obviously a big fan of that. Joey Votto at first. Votto's been basically one of the best players in the entire major leagues, if not the premier player in the major leagues this year. Obviously making good on that extension that he signed in the offseason, $200 and some odd million. Just an incredible amount of money. Got Aaron Hill playing second base, David Wright at third, Ian Desmond at short, and then across the outfield, left to right, we have Ryan Braun, Michael Bourne, and Jason Hayward. So two of the three guys from the Atlanta outfield that obviously has been very, very grossly underrepresented at this year's All-Star festivities. And then my DH is Andrew McCutchen, and now with McCutchen, he had tied Bourne with, I think, 3.8 wins above replacement. I just went with the fielder, the guy that could field a little bit better. So if I had done that in the American League, I could have obviously swapped out Gordon and left and Hamilton at DH, and maybe retroactively I should say that I would do that. But nonetheless, McCutchen would be my DH. Going on the bench here, we have Yadier Molina catching. We have Chase Headley at third, or rather corner infield. And I think that Headley's going to be a guy that could be a hot commodity as we come into the trade deadline here in a couple weeks. The Padres rightly are asking for a lot for him, and if he goes somewhere that's a hitter's park, he could really become a superstar player with just a little bit of push, I guess, or encouragement. But my middle infielder is Jed Lowry. Obviously can play a little bit of second, a little bit of short, coming over from Boston in that deal for Houston. Houston's got to be just thrilled with the production they've gotten out of Jed Lowry this year. And let's round it out. We got Martin Prado, so a third outfielder from Atlanta coming into this All-Star team. And obviously Prado's defensive versatility would be beneficial, kind of like Ben Zobrist, because Prado has seen some time all over the infield in his career. And finally, I had to round it out with a center field eligible player, so apologies to a couple outfielders whom I bumped in favor of this guy, but Melky Cabrera. And now he doesn't play a great center field, but he's been an absolute monster with the stick this year. So I think he's the pick for my center fielder backup as we round out my my batting order and my bench. So let's go look at the starting rotation. I got Zach Greinke as my starter. Been a great pitcher, obviously free agent to be. So it'll be interesting to see if he winds up in Milwaukee long term or if he signs someplace else. I got R.A. Dickey coming out of the chute second. And then a pair of Nationals and Gio Gonzalez and Steven Strasburg with my 3 and 4 starters. Can't imagine in a universe where those guys would be 3 or 4 starters. So that's an absolutely scintillating starting rotation. And then rounding it out, I have Johnny Cueto. So obviously a very talented rotation of strikeout pitchers. And R.A. Dickey is just kind of the wild card because he basically does whatever he wants with that knuckleball. Now let's take a look at this bullpen. This bullpen is going to be filthy. Craig Kimbrell, Kenley Jansen, Joel Hanrahan, Steve Cishek of the Marlins, who I was actually surprised to see had been performing so well. And, you know, we hear there's going to be possibly a closer by committee situation going on in Miami after the All-Star break. Obviously, his name should be in the mix. I know Juan Carlos Oviedo is coming back too, and Heath Bell has really struggled. But Cishek is a guy you might want to look into, too, if you're a fantasy player for maybe sneaking some saves in there. We got Tyler Clippard, who's been closing in Drew Storen's stead in Washington. And then finally running out Clay Hensley, another guy really would not have expected to see on the list there. So, personally, I think the National League takes down the American League in this one. Again, the team looks somewhat like the National League team that we saw this week here in Kansas City, but obviously some notable differences too. And so, if you're watching this and have the inclination, leave us some comments in the comments section. Let us know what your All-Star team might look like, who you think might win this game, and anything else you have to say. So, until then, see you next week, and thanks, everybody. Peace.